of legal investigations by means of more payouts. To this hour, not a single plaintiff's day in court to present evidence in a trial has come to fruition. The more persistent and uncooperative plaintiffs have dealt with the special mediator of Hellerstein's court, Sheila Birnbaum, another key Jew. Sheila Birnbaum, the special mediator, is a partner in the law firm of Skadden Arps, a leading corporate law firm with close business ties to Israel. The firm calls itself, quote, one of the leading U.S. legal advisors to Israeli companies doing business and raising capital outside of Israel. The firm's website proclaims, many of our attorneys are thoroughly familiar with the legal structure, business environment, and political system of Israel, and several have been admitted to the bars of both Israel and New York, and are fluent in Hebrew and English, unquote. Israeli individuals and companies, however, are suspects and defendants in the crimes of 9/11. At least 200 Israeli suspects were arrested in connection with 9/11. Certainly, these salient facts cannot be mere random coincidence. The key individuals who arranged the privatization and obtained control of the 10.6 million square foot complex known as the World Trade Center shortly before its destruction are Larry Silverstein, former Israeli commando and Westfield shopping mall tycoon Frank Lowy, and Port Authority Chairman Louis M. Eisenberg, who authorized the transfer of the leases. Silverstein, Lowy, and Eisenberg all hold senior positions in organizations such as the Anti-Defamation League, or ADL, the United Jewish Appeal, UJA, a billion-dollar Zionist charity organization, and the New York-based Museum of Jewish Heritage, a living memorial to the Jewish Holocaust. Silverstein is a former chairman of UJA. This organization raises hundreds of millions of dollars every year for a network of Jewish agencies in the United States and Israel. Eisenberg, who was instrumental in obtaining the lease for Silverstein, is on the planning board of the UJA. Eisenberg, in his role with the Port Authority, was the key person who negotiated the 99-year leases for Silverstein and Frank Lowy's Westfield America, who were in fact the low bidders for the lease on the 110-story towers and the retail mall. 6 weeks before the World Trade Center towers were destroyed, the Port Authority, with the assistance of Jewish Chairman Eisenberg, completed the process of leasing them for 99 years to Larry Silverstein, the developer who had built 7 World Trade Center, which mysteriously self-demolished at 5:25 p.m. on 9/11, although the building wasn't hit by a plane. Simultaneously, the retail space underneath the complex was leased to Westfield America, the U.S. division of an Australian company that is one of the world's largest operators of shopping malls. Paul Goldberger wrote in The New Yorker, 20th May 2002. Czechoslovakian-born Israeli commando Frank Lowy, a former fighter in Israel's Golani Brigade, immigrated to Australia in the 1950s. Lowy leased the shopping concourse called the Mall at the World Trade Center, which comprised about 427,000 square feet of retail space. Today, Lowy and his 3 sons control Westfield Corporation, one of the largest operators of shopping centers in the United States and the world. Lowy is described by the Sydney Morning Herald as, quote, a self-made man with a strong interest in the Holocaust and Israeli politics, unquote. Dov Zakheim's SPC Corporation provided the flight termination system and command transmitter system. Some people have posited that the planes that flew into the towers were remote controlled. Although sounding like science fiction to the average person, this technology has existed for several decades. In an emergency situation in which pilot and co-pilot have been incapacitated, ground control can take control of a plane and fly it safe and sound to its destination. The argument for the use of this technology would be to say that to ensure that the planes met their targets, instead of relying on some supposed suicide hijackers, who might bail out at the last minute, remote control technology was used. We are not here to argue for this point, nor disagree with it, but it is more than telling that System Planning Corporation, or SPC, designs, manufactures, and distributes highly sophisticated technology that enables an operator to fly by remote control as many as 8 different airborne vehicles at the same time from one position, either on the ground or airborne. System Planning Corporation markets the technology to take over the controls of an airborne vehicle already in flight. For example, the flight termination system technology could hijack hijackers and bring the plane down safely. The flight termination system can be used in conjunction with the CTS technology that can control up to 8 airborne vehicles simultaneously. The possibility of nefarious use of these brilliant technologies developed and deployed by Systems Planning Corporation certainly deserves careful consideration in any full and impartial investigation of what actually took place on 9/11. In the context of 9/11, it also needs to be pointed out that Rabbi Dov Zakheim was Chief Executive Officer of System Planning Corporation's International Division until President George W. Bush appointed him Undersecretary of Defense and Comptroller of the Pentagon. Not long before Rabbi Zakheim rose to power over the Pentagon's labyrinthine, bottomless accounts, he co-authored an article entitled Rebuilding America's Defenses, Strategy, Forces, and Resources for a New Century, which was published by the Project for a New American Century in September 2000, exactly a year before 9/11. In this article, on page 51, it is stated that, quote, the process of transformation, even if it brings revolutionary change, is likely to be a long one, absent some catastrophic and catalyzing event, like a new Pearl Harbor, unquote. Larry Silverstein, a key figure in the Jewish crime network, dual Israeli citizen and World Trade Center leaseholder, who pocketed $4 billion for the attacks of 9/11. Somehow Silverstein had the mysterious foresight to insure both of the towers with an insurance policy specifically covering acts of terrorism just weeks before September 11th, 2001. But things get more absurd than this. Enter P-Tech. The Israeli Mossad also had their hands in the most sensitive computer networks in the U.S. government through a little-known firm called P-Tech. 9/11 was also a computer crime. America's security apparatus and infrastructure would have reacted to the hijacking, then scrambled fighter jets and would have eliminated the threats to thousands of Americans. Unfortunately, most of the critical computer systems were run by P-Tech. This left gaping holes in the communication networks and interoperability between the computer systems, which would allow a hijacker to cause severe miscommunication and delay any reaction to the real-time hijacking. Keep in mind, there were drills going on of flights crashing into buildings on 9/11, as well as other drills, such as Operation Northern Vigilance, Operation Vigilant Guardian, Operation Northern Guardian, and Operation Vigilant Warrior. Joe Bergantino, a reporter for WBZ-TV's investigative team, was torn. He could risk breaking a story based on months of work investigating a software firm linked to terrorism, or heed the government's demand to hold the story for national security reasons. In mid-June, Bergantino received a tip from a woman in New York who suspected that P-Tech, a computer software company in Quincy, Massachusetts, had ties to terrorists. P-Tech specialized in developing software that manages information contained in computer networks. Bergantino's investigation revealed that P-Tech's clients included many federal government agencies, including the U.S. Army, the U.S. Air Force, the U.S. Naval Air Command, Congress, the Department of Energy, the Federal Aviation Administration, or FAA, and the Internal Revenue Service, as well as NATO and the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and moreover, the Secret Service and even the White House. On the surface, it seemed P-TECH can be linked to Saudis and Arabs, as they are the frontmen financiers of P-TECH. This is not dissimilar to the pattern, as the deceptive alternative media has also linked the official story's antagonists as night teen hijackers from Saudi Arabia.